Hello, my name is Jane Gov. I am a Youth Services Librarian at Pasadena Public Library. And in this video, I'll guide you through how to get started with creating a stamp or print using linoleum. If you picked up the supply kit from the library, we distributed kits for ArtNight Pasadena in April 2021. You would have received a stamp pad, a piece of linoleum, a carving tool, and some cardstock. Some of you may have also received graphite paper, but if you didn't, it is not necessary for this project. Okay, so let's get started. First, decide on your design. So you can sketch this out on a piece of paper. I am just measuring the linoleum to a regular piece of paper. And I am just folding it to size so I know how large the image that I want will be. So you can do this a lot of different ways. You can sketch out your design on a piece of paper. You can print out a design from the internet, or if you sketched it out on the computer, you can print that out too. I would recommend, if you're going to look up images, to look up silhouettes or outlines so that it's two-tone like black and white, so it's easier to transfer onto a stamp. This is my first time doing this project, so to warm up, I did a practice run on one side of the linoleum. I first started by sketching an image. This is a corgi, sort of. And then I just took graphite paper and taped the darker side down onto the linoleum, put the image on top of it and taped it, and then just drew on top of the image with a pencil. And that's one way of transferring an image onto the linoleum if you want to do it that way. And then you'll just get your carving tool and carve very carefully around your image. Just remember that everything you carve away is the part that is not going to get ink on it. So you can think about that as you are designing your image. Something else to keep in mind is that whatever you're carving, is a mirror image of what you want to end up as the final print. So keep that in mind, especially for letters, to carve them as a mirror image. And that is the result of the test run. Okay, so for my actual prints, I am going to sketch something like The Scream by Munch. And what I'm doing is I'm just using a pencil and lightly sketching on top of the linoleum. And this time I'm going to use the whole side. So what I did was I just flipped it over from my test run, and I'm using the other side for my print. So once you have an image, or at least an idea of what you'd like to carve, you can get your carving tool and just carefully carve the image. I'm being very careful not to carve too deep into the linoleum. So to get a shallower carve, I am angling the tool flatter or closer to the linoleum so I can get the first carve to be shallow. Later on, I'll go back, and if I want the stamp or that part of the print to be darker, I will make the carve deeper. So I'm going to speed up the video just a little here. Again, I am carving the outline of my main image, and later I will go back and make those carvings a little more distinct. Okay, so once you have your initial outline, you can go ahead and start carving away the areas that you do not want ink on it. So what I'm doing here is I've decided that I want the mouth, the eyes, and the nose to be inked, and I want around the skull or around the head area to be inked. So I'm carving away inside the face area. I'm also taking into account that sometimes, depending on how deep you're cutting or how much away you're cutting, some of the linoleum, like the lines of the cuts, may show on your print, and that's okay with me. So I am making sure that whichever way I'm carving, I am okay with those lines showing up. And you'll see on the final project how those show up. Okay, so I have my main part of the print carved out. So now I am going to start on the border or the outside of it. And again, I am deciding which parts I want inked. And so my first step is to do those outlines again. And then I will decide which areas to carve out. So before I finish the outline of all of the images around it, I am adding another outline around the skull to make sure that that part of the print comes out. So now there is a distinct bold line around the skull. So now I know that at least that part will come out in the print. And I'm just cleaning up around the line just a little, again, so I know that it's going to show up in the print. And then I'm going to finish the outlines for the background image. And again, I'm going to carve away the areas that I don't want inked. So I've decided to carve it away from the skull because again, I know that some of those lines may show up in my print. Now, if I didn't want any other lines, like background lines, to show up, I could just carve deeper. And I'll try this on one side of the image, and in my final print, you'll see that come out as well, or not come out in this case. So I'm carving away in one direction because I want more or less those lines to come out that way. If you're not used to creating stamps or thinking in negative or positive space, you may want to sketch out most of your design and shade in the areas you like to carve away. And again, make sure that there are outlines or thicker areas around these spaces that you would like ink to come out. Otherwise, they may not show up. I want to add some shoulders here, so I'm trying to figure that out. And then I'm going to take a pencil and just mark off the areas that I want to carve away, just so I don't forget. A good way to tell which areas might show up on the print is just looking at it sideways to see which parts of the linoleum is still up to the edge. Okay, so I think the whole thing has been cut or carved at least once. So now I am going over the print with just some details, and I'm looking at it again sideways to see which parts are going to ink up. So I am going to carve away, again, one side of it, so you'll see this come out in the print. So you can carve in between some of those first carvings to make sure that those parts do not show up in the print. I think I'm happy with my carving for now, so I'm going to get out my stamp pad and see what it looks like. And that's my final print. So at this point you can carve away a little bit more if you'd like, or if you have more than one color stamp, or if you have some speedball ink, you can add on another color on top. So with this green stamp pad, I am stamping it again, and let's see what it looks like. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you all had a lot of fun. Feel free to tag us on social media at Pasadena Library to share what you've done. Thanks again.